Hi there. I was asked to share with you a little bit about my story, especially in terms of my story to be a Salesian priest. Let me introduce myself. My name's Father Michael Court. I'm a Salesian priest, and at present I'm parish priest in Engadine in New South Wales, the southernmost parish in the Sydney Archdiocese. I was actually also born in Sydney, and I spent the first 15 years of my life there. It was on the north side in a place called North Manly. In those days I went to a local Catholic primary school, and then I went to the Christian Brothers in Manly for the later years of my primary education. In those early years, my memories are very much of the good people that were a part of my life. I loved my sport. I played football for the local football club, and my coaches had a tremendous influence on me. I also had some great teachers that I remember very fondly, some of the sisters in the primary school. I also remember the parish priest of Manly at the time, who had a Father McRae, and he had a very powerful influence on me, a very kind and understanding man. I went to a state high school, and that was a big change for me in terms of just coming to grips with the diversity of people, I guess. And there were many people at that school that were very, very committed to faith, not the Catholic faith, the other Protestant churches, but there were also a great variety of students who were not very interested in anything really, apart from just having a wild time. I guess that was also a powerful influence on me, as it was all the different alternatives were presented to me. My family moved to Melbourne when I was moving into Year 10, and there I went to a Salesian high school, a Salesian college at Chadstone, and that was another powerful influence on my life. In those days, sport was very much the centre of my life, and up in Sydney I played rugby league and rugby union, and surfed during summer as we lived near some of the surf beaches. But once we moved to Melbourne, they were playing some crazy game called Aussie Rules, aerial ping pong, and we were so far from the beach that the only alternatives in summer were cricket. And I just remember the struggles in those early times of trying to adjust to those new sports. Near the end of my schooling at Salesian College at Chadstone, one of the priests invited me and asked me whether I'd be interested in being a Salesian priest. And at the time I didn't have much confidence, and although I was interested, I didn't think I had the ability to do it, and also there's too many questions in my heart. And then he sort of encouraged me, and then I raised it with my parents, and they also thought I was too young, and so I went off to university to do a Bachelor of Science degree. The second year of that degree, I'd stayed in touch with the Salesians and had worked with youth. I was coaching local football teams and cricket teams, and what happened was that I realised that this was something bigger than me, and that God was a part of this story, and I decided that I just knew I had to have a go at being a Salesian. So at the end of my second year at university, I deferred, and I entered what's called the novitiate year for the Salesians. And that was back in 1976, and so I deferred for a year and had that intense year with the Salesians. And then I went back and completed my university degree, and also did a Diploma of Education from Monash University, while I was also beginning my philosophical studies for the priesthood. I guess then my journey was involved in a fair bit of study. I had to also complete those philosophy studies, and then I did practical training in some of our high schools. And then I went back to do theology, and that was a happy time. It was very full time. I was playing a lot of sport, I was playing football, I was playing soccer, football rather, and cricket and basketball and squash and table tennis, all in competitions, plus I was coaching teams, plus I was umpiring in football, and I was also umpiring in basketball. And I was doing study in between that as well. And I really enjoyed those times. It was sort of a full-on time for me as a young man. Once I was ordained, back in 1984 in Holy Family in Mount Waverley, I then was shifted to one of our high schools in Adelaide, and that was a really exciting time, my first 3 years as a priest, working in the parish and also working in the high school. I was very idealistic and full of dreams and full of hopes to make a difference in the lives of young people. I guess the reality was not quite matching my ideals in terms of many of the young people were indifferent and weren't really, and at times even bored and anti some of the things that were important to me. And although I continued to enjoy that time, it was a very challenging time for me as I was coming to grips with really living my priesthood. But anyway, times moved on and they moved me to Gully in St Joseph's Regional College there. And I spent 7 years there as working in the school as a religious coordinator and also as a science and a mathematics teacher, and also doing sport with the young people. I was always involved in the local parish and helping out there in terms of, and I guess it was just building my skills, building my involvement. I then was moved to the retreat centre at Listerfield, where for 13 years I ran that retreat centre, and that was another really great time in my life. There was so much more variety in what I was doing as I was involved with such a wide cross-section of schools throughout Melbourne and also beyond. I also, in those times, was still involved in the local parishes, and I was also very heavily involved in the Hispanic Youth Ministry and the Hispanic Cooperator group, in which I enjoyed a great friendship with many of those people over 20 years. I guess the highlight of my life as a priest has been working with people in privileged times of their lives, whether it's the joyful times of baptisms and births and marriages and confirmations and first communions, or maybe it's sometimes the sad, difficult times, the crisis times for people when they're really struggling and people and maybe separations and deaths. And at all times it's a privilege for me to be a part of God's presence for people in those great times and joyful times and in those difficult times. I know, and I guess that's my deepest hope as a priest. My deepest hope as a priest is to form relationships with those people that I'm ministering to and be a presence of God. Bring a bit of God's love and God's life and God's energy into people's lives to help celebrate the good times and to help them work through and grow through the difficulties and challenges that are a part of every single person's life. Just coming to conclusion, my life as a priest has had many ups and downs, many difficulties, many challenges. As I said, the wrestling with the idealism and the reality has always been a difficult thing. But also I think, wanting to do so many things in my life, wanting to be a person for God, but also deeply, especially when I was younger, wanting to have a family and wanting to have a wife even of my own. And it took a long time to come to grips that really my life was called by God to give myself to all people within the context of the church and the wider community in the name of God. And I know now that I embrace that call with as much with all that I am and as best I can, and I still struggle, but there's a great joy in that gift that is involved in that commitment. I just finish off. One of the questions they said on the list was, what is it that you'd like to be remembered on your epitaph, on your grave? And it's a strange reflection, but my deep hope would be that it says something about me being a loving priest for people and a person that helped bring was a sign and the bearer of the love of God for young people, and help make God's kingdom real and alive in the good times and in the difficult times of people's lives. Well, I guess this sharing's all about our call in life. My deep hope is that whoever who's listening to this, some of the things that I've shared ring a bell inside your heart of God's call for you, whatever it might be. And the challenge and the encouragement to live that call to the full, and especially in the context of walking with God and helping God's kingdom to be alive and present in all people's lives. Thanks for listening, and God bless you.